Welcome to How to Read a Dial Caliper for use in precision measuring. What I hold in my hand here is a dial caliper. On this dial caliper, there are four main parts. We have our blade, we have our slider, we have our two locking mechanisms, and we have our scale. Our scale could either be in inches or in millimeters. The dial caliper can be used to measure four different ways: outside diameter or thickness, inside diameter or thickness, step measuring, or depth. All of these use the same device and are read the same way. Before you can start measuring, there's a process that you have to go through first. That process is called zeroing. To zero the dial caliper, you want to make sure that the locks are off. So you want to loosen the two lock mechanisms. You want to then close the dial caliper. If the zero is not lined up, you want to move the dial until the zero matches with where the pointer is showing. So you want the zero to be firmly underneath the pointer. As the pointer moves one full rotation, it will move 1/10 of an inch on the slider. So you can see here I'm about at zero. And if I go slowly one rotation, it takes me to the point 3. On the blade, the scale is split up into tenths. The bottom scale is in inches, the top scale is in millimeters. In between the two, you can actually see a rack gear. When you're doing a measurement, you want to look at the reference edge. So where the reference edge is telling you what the start of the measurement is going to be. In this case, I have 1 inch, 0.3, and then I want to go to my dial. My dial is split up into 100 divisions. Each one of these divisions is worth 1/1000th of an inch. In this case, my dial has stopped at 54. So I have 1.354. A lot of times the dial will not stop exactly at a number. So you can see in this case, the dial is a little bit past the 31. How we get to 4 decimal places, 1/10,000th of an inch, is we estimate that last decimal place. So in this case, I have 1.3311. In order to do the 4 different types of measurements, you need to look at how the dial caliper is set up. To do an outside measurement, you want to use the larger set of prongs. You're going to place the item firmly in between those two prongs, and you're going to close the dial caliper around it. Once that item is secure, you want to look at the reference edge and read what is going to be that reading. In this case, this reading is 1.3309. I'm not quite to that 31. To do an inside diameter or an inside thickness reading, you're going to use these smaller prongs. You're going to place those inside of the object that you are measuring, and you're going to then expand the prongs so that they are pushing against the inside edges of that object. And again, you want to look at the blade to get your first number, in this case 1.1. Then you want to look at your dial, 1.159, and then you're estimating the fourth decimal place, 1. So I have a 1.1591. So that is outside measurements, interior measurements. You can also use the dial caliper to do step measurements. You want to use the two different levels, so the flat edge of the blade and the flat edge of the slider are going to rest on the different ledges of your object. So you want to rest the flat edge of the blade, and you want to move the slider until it makes contact with the next edge. You can see right there, it fits nicely right on that edge. So once it's nice and secure, you can use the lock mechanism so that it's not going to move on you. You can take the part away and read the dial. In this case, it looks like I'm at 0.5, but I have not passed my 0 yet, so I'm still in my 0.4. So I have 0.492. So 0.492. In this case, it looks like it's directly, the pointer's directly on that line. The last type of measuring is using the tail. You want to place the tail into the object so that the flat part of the tail is on the very bottom of that depth that you're trying to measure. And you want to move the blade so that it rests right up against the top of that part. So this is the only part that actually was inserted into that. Then you want to flip it around and look at what the reading is. In this case, this depth was 0.3225. 4 different types of measurements, 1 precision measuring tool. I hope that this video has been informative, and good luck with your measuring.